Welcome back to Mental Wellness Evolution. I'm Jeff, and thanks for being here. Tonight we're talking about the robot you. Okay, guys, so what does this concept even mean? Okay, this is something that I kind of developed along on my own time when I started really learning about the subconscious mind and how the brain and subconscious mind work in tandem and how it actually makes us entirely predictable to the point that we almost behave like robots in our lives. Okay, so let me explain what I mean by this. Okay, so our minds operate on essentially actually three levels. Now, a super conscious level is when we hit into gamma brainwave state, and that's like a full-blown sensory experience, which you can achieve in very deep states of meditation, okay? But for the most part, we are concerned with two levels. We are on a conscious level, where if you're here, you're talking, you're listening to me, you're processing the information, you're taking it in, you're evaluating, you're conscious, you're present, you're in the moment. We talk about this often on this channel, okay? But then we operate on the subconscious level, okay? Now the subconscious means below conscious awareness, meaning we're not necessarily even aware that we're doing it, okay? Now when I started learning about the subconscious mind, it really kind of clicked into everything to me as far as behaviors go and why we are the way we are, why we keep going back to the same things over and over again, even though we don't necessarily want to, okay? So the subconscious mind and brain work in tandem, okay? The subconscious mind, the easiest way to think of this is to think of your brain as a computer. The subconscious mind is essentially the internal operating system, or the IOS if you want to, that is running that computer, okay? So we input the system and it basically runs the computer, and the computer spits out what we do on a day-to-day basis, okay? And because the brain and subconscious love what's familiar to it, that's why we keep getting taken back to the same things over and over and over again, okay? So anytime we learn a new behavior, or we have a specific thought that we get fixated on, emotion, whatever it is, we have what's called in our brain a neurological network. Now, what all that means is there's a specific group of neurons for each specific behavior, thought, feeling, emotion within your brain. And it has literally memorized how to do that so well that it does not essentially need you to be present in your life in order for your brain to carry out this behavior. So essentially, we walk through our lives like robots, because as soon as our conscious mind checks out of our lives, so we get distracted, something goes on, we get fixated on a thought, you'll notice that your body can still kind of carry on and execute your day-to-day tasks, get all the work done you need to get done. You can take care of your kids, you can cook supper, you can pet your cat, you can even watch TV without even being conscious and present in your life, okay? So essentially your brain and subconscious has memorized how to be you better than you even know how to be yourself at this point, okay? Now, the thing about these neurological networks is there's a principle in neuroscience called Hebb's principle. And Hebb's principle essentially states that neurons that fire together wire together. What syncs in the brain links in the brain. So anytime you do that behavior over and over and over and over, you embed those neurological networks in your brain. Now, this doesn't just happen with one demonstration. Obviously, we have to do things repeatedly because the subconscious mind and the brain are programmed through repetition. But if we do things in the same specific sequence for the entirety of our lives, if we've been doing the same behaviors over and over again for 10, 15, 20 years, those neurological networks become very embedded in our brains. Think of like when you're walking through, you've had fresh snow and you've been walking in it all winter long, and there's pathways very, very embedded in that snow. That's kind of a good analogy to think of here, okay? Now, what happens to us all the time, guys, like I said, as soon as we check out of our lives, the subconscious robot version of ourselves takes over. Now, you might notice that you live the same day over and over and over again. You go back to the same thoughts. You go back to the same feelings. You go back to the same behaviors over and over and over again. We're essentially programmed like robots, guys. And this is something that's important and lots of people don't want to believe, but humans are entirely programmable. We are entirely programmable. We get programming from our childhood, from our parents, from religion, from relationships. We get it really badly from media, government, anybody in a position of power, anybody that can kind of generate an emotional reaction within us offers us programming, because that dictates our belief systems. And once those things are ingrained in us as belief systems, subconscious belief systems, that is going to be what governs our behavior, because the subconscious mind is governing 95% and the very lion's share of our behaviors. This is why news media and things is so dangerous, because it's literally fear-based programming. They want to generate an emotional reaction within you, stir you up inside, get your conscious mind out of it, and then they just beat your subconscious into oblivion with the same talking points over and over and over again. And essentially now you start running around acting the way your TV wants you to act. That's just the way it works, guys. People don't want to hear that, but it's the absolute truth. Television is mind control. That's all it's ever been. It's there to manipulate your consciousness, and it programs us. And there's a ton of people running around in the world that are programmed like zombies because of the television, okay? So what we need to do, guys, is we need to first of all become aware of this. This is such an important thing to learn about yourself, because if you don't know this is happening, you don't know how the subconscious mind works, you can be horrendously easily manipulated by anybody in the world who knows how to play on your emotions. They can play you psychologically. And believe me, people are doing that everywhere in the world. People don't have the thoughts for themselves. You can just go watch two people argue about politics. It's the same two arguments regardless of the two people. That's because they're programmed. They're literally acting like robots. It's entirely predictable. You can see what they're going to say. You know what they're going to say. Why? Because those ideas were programmed into their mind through fear-based programming, which is how television works, okay? So we need to be mindful of these things, guys. Otherwise, we're going to run around operating on other people's belief systems. We're going to do the behaviors that other people want us to do. We're going to experience emotions that somebody else is expecting us to feel. And we will be entirely predictable in our lives. And not a damn thing will ever change for you. You'll just keep going at the same thing over and over and over and over again, okay? But we need to break this up. And how do we do that? The conscious mind. This is why I talk about focus, having the ability to focus, to stay present, to stay grounded in the now, because that's the only place you will ever make changes in your life. If you're not conscious and present in your life, you will lose your free will to that program every single time. No questions asked. You will go back to the way you've always done it unless you consciously get yourself into the moment and get on the field. Now, understanding now, 95% of your behavior is being governed by the subconscious mind, which means for 95% of our lives, we're not even paying attention. We're not even in our lives. We're on zombie autopilot, okay? But it also makes you understand that the conscious mind in you, the soul, the spirit aspect of yourself, is fighting that uphill struggle, trying to make changes in your life, okay? And then, being that the brain and subconscious love what's familiar to it. So as soon as you start trying to do things that are off schedule with the brain starts flooding you with stress hormones, goes like, no, I don't like this. We don't want to do this. We should do this tomorrow. Maybe next week we'll start. This doesn't feel right. This is unfamiliar, okay? But we have to understand that this is the only way we can make changes in our lives, guys, that we can actually stop being like predictable robots in our lives, is to consciously make a decision to go in a different direction. It's the only chance we have. It's the only chance, is getting into the moment, getting present in the now, being aware of the programs, acknowledging for yourself. If you actually take a look at your life, you'll probably realize this is very true. I do the same shit over and over and over again. And every time you try to make changes, it seems like such a challenge. Why? Well, this is why. We were literally programmed. We put in garbage software into our computer. And if you put shitty software into a computer, what do you expect to get out of that computer? It really is not that complicated, guys. Like, when you understand this, you'll start to get why you have to go about these behaviors, why you need discipline, why you need to be consistent and do the same things over and over again, because you're rewiring your brain. This is a process called neuroplasticity. This is the brain's ability to change itself, and we can absolutely rewire ourselves and change this, and thus our subconscious programming, at any time. But it takes conscious effort. Now, remember the snow analogy that I talked about earlier. If you stop doing those old behaviors, picture the snow starts to cover up the tracks. It starts to cover up the tracks. And if you don't walk through those tracks, it covers up the tracks. And eventually, those tracks are entirely gone. And you've got a new set of tracks over here. So that's what we're trying to do, guys, okay? But understand, guys, humans are programmable. We all are. I'm not sitting here saying I'm not either. We all are. Our consciousness can be manipulated. Our minds can be manipulated. Our subconscious minds can be manipulated. And if we're not aware that this can happen to us, we're going to be in trouble, guys, because there's a ton of people in the world right now running around that are just spouting garbage that they've gotten from social and mainstream media, governments, and everything else, turning hatred and everybody against each other because of this programming, okay, guys? So be aware so this doesn't happen to you, okay? It's hard enough dealing with our own individual programming without adding additional programming onto this, okay, guys? So be aware of the robot you. Pay attention to yourself. Watch how predictable you actually are in a lot of situations and circumstances in your life. That's going to give you a window into what your actual subconscious programming is. Now you have an awareness, you make a plan, you take those plan and you execute it repeatedly in the present moment, because repetition is the key to reprogramming the subconscious mind. So essentially, we're going to delete the old iOS, internal operating system, and install a much better, more updated, and far more efficient version of ourselves. Have a great night, guys.